And listen, I mean, I think that when it comes to the allegations, as I said, I think that Letitia James was engaged in active political activism. I think she's continued to engage in an active political activism. So this is one of the things that's really tough when you're watching this, and especially, again, not being in the courtroom, but having to rely on, sort of secondhand accounts of what's going on and all of the testimony, which is condensed down, a day's worth of testimony is condensed down to like 1,000 words. It's really tough to get a sense of, okay, so what's been proven, what's been disproven, what is still, sort of in a murky gray area. But as you say, one of the NRA's defenses is, yeah, we did things wrong, but we're trying to make it right. Yes. And that includes Wayne LaPierre paying this money back. That includes Wayne LaPierre stepping down, although we were also told that he was stepping down for health reasons, right? So you're right. They've acknowledged, yeah, okay, there were mistakes that were made, right? But we're trying to rectify these mistakes, so we shouldn't be punished anymore because we're trying to do the right thing now. Right. And, I guess the question then becomes, is that true? And can you correct these mistakes with the folks who were around, at least to some level, and should have had some knowledge, right, of what was going on?
Because that's the major issue right now, is that even though LaPierre is leaving at the end of the month, most of his strongest allies are actually the ones still in control of the organization. People who, like Charles Cotton, for instance, who's the NRA president and who they actually amended the bylaws to keep president. He was on the audit committee that approved a lot of these arrangements retroactively. A lot of, and Andrew Rulonundum, who we talked about earlier, was moved to be the head of general operations. They fired the previous head, DeBurgelis, to get Rulonundum into that role so that he would be the interim executive vice president and CEO when Wayne left.
Right, because under the bylaws, the head of general operations automatically becomes the interim EVP and CEO.
Right, and so the question is, the NRA's, like you laid out there, their main argument in court is, yes, some of these things happened, not all of them. That's why you see this sort of back and forth of defending Wayne at points or blaming him for things at points, because they want to say that they've already punished Wayne to a certain degree, or at least gotten back the money that he took that he shouldn't have, or spent on things he shouldn't have spent them on, but that they've fixed the organization. This has been their basic approach the entire time. And the big problem with that is a lot of people who were in charge when the corruption occurred are still in charge. And so I'm wondering, if you want to look into your crystal ball here, where do you think this trial is going to come out?
If I had to hazard a guess, I would say that Letitia James has the upper hand, maybe not even based on the facts, but based on the location. I think New York City is probably a pretty hostile environment for the NRA to defend itself. So I think that we are going to see, my guess is that we are going to see, a verdict that Letitia James can call successful, right? That the NRA will be ordered to repay, however many more dollars that they're, and I think there's a really good chance that there probably will be a special monitor appointed to oversee the group's finances.
Right.
Where I am still, all right. So I also don't see the fundamental change within the organization happening that I think needs to happen, if I'm going to be blunt. I'd love it if that was the case, but, I think what we've seen is that sort of entrenchment, right? And I've always believed the NRA is bigger than any of its members, whether it's Wayne LaPierre, Chris Cox, Charles Cotton, myself, whoever, right? The organization, its strength comes from its millions of members, and no one person should be more important than the bulk of the membership. So from my perspective, I think that the current leaders have lost the trust, certainly of myself and a lot of other NRA members, again, or former members who've left the organization. And that if they care about the organization, my belief is that they should step aside. I would actually love to see, one of the things that's it's so problematic to try to reform the organization is, I think, it's a third of the board that's up for election at any given time, right? So there is no way to make a wholesale change on the board because you're going to have to go through multiple elections. You're going to have to go through the nominating committee.
Yes, the board
honestly, there's a part of me that would love to see every board member fall on their sword and say, you know what, we're resigning. I might run for re-election, but let's have a clean slate and let's let the members decide where we're going to go in the future, because this is a membership-based organization. I don't see that happening at all. That's what I would prefer to see. But, I am afraid that what we're going to see is just, again, a continuation of this this attitude of, we haven't really done anything wrong. We don't really face any real problems. Everything's great. Just, stick with us, stick with the plan. Everything's going to be fine. And I just don't think that that's the case. And I think there are a lot of current and former members who would agree with me that if we keep going in this direction, if we keep spending this much money every year on legal bills, and we keep seeing the donations declining, that this is an organization that is either going to cease to exist or it's going to cease to exist in a meaningful way in the not too distant future. And I think that would be an absolute tragedy. Can the Second Amendment movement survive without the NRA? I think we can. But again, this is an organization that does a lot of good, has done a lot of good, I think can continue to do a lot of good if those repairs are made.